Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Apple. I'm head of the software and SaaS vertical at Intact. I've been very happy to be the sponsor of the tactical stage here at SaaStr. This is our last and final seminar. It's going to be a great session. I got a question for the crowd. How many people here are European? Okay. Welcome. What time zone are you on? Thank you for coming. You probably already know some of these people, all of these people in the background. We were talking a little bit about what the session's going to be about. This is for you. This is their story. What did they go through? How have they made the decisions that they have on building their businesses, and particularly on how they went about raising funding? So we'd love for you to, the time you're spending with us, to walk away. That's our investment back in you, to learn some of the lessons they went through it so you can take some of the, avoid the bad, double down on the good. We've got 4 great speakers coming on right now. I'm going to let them introduce themselves as they come on up. And I don't want to take away from the moderator. So Teddie, come on up. Thank you.
All right, I think let's just all get on stage. So we have a great group of European founders today. We have 2 French founders, 1 Swedish founder, and 2 of you guys are from have done YC, and Jens has done the YC of life, as he told me a few days ago.
That's right, YC of life.
But the common theme is all of you have raised money from Jason Lemkin in one way or another. So it's a huge coincidence you end up on stage here today.
Big coincidence.
We're going to talk about the stories of fundraising, the kind of the good, bad, and the ugly of European SaaS founders fundraising for businesses. And let's start with you, Nicolas. So you had the US venture funders already in your seed stage, but then you ended up raising a round in Europe. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you kind of bent back and forth?
Sure. So I'll be honest. When we were fundraising for our Series A, we mostly spoke to US investors. But then what happened is that the most bullish investors actually were the one who had known us for the longest, with whom we had a long relationship. And that's how we ended up with Axel UK and Philip. Philip had known us for like 2 years before. And so we saw the progress of the company along the years. And I think that really was a key part of having him being probably bolder on one side than the others. And then it was a great brand anyway, Axel, global brand, so for us it was a good one anyway. And the fact that it was from the UK actually was also in a way an advantage, given we already had US investors, because he knew what it took to go from Europe to US.
And Jens, for Automile, you ended up raising your A round from a very well-known US VC called the SaaStr Fund.
That's right. We were the first investment in the SaaStr fund that was, I think it's $75 million or something similar than that. And I was still partially living in Europe at that stage. And something I learned with Jason Lemkin is that, he spends a lot of time during the due diligence phase with your customers. He's learning what makes Automile so great. And what I learned during that phase is that, I think he already made up his mind regarding me as a founder. He wanted to invest into me and wanted to know how good is this product really. He also were knowing that this is a big market, it's a $30 billion market. But ultimately, I think what's really killed it is that he basically talked a lot with the customer before making up his final mind and giving me a term sheet. And even having multiple term sheets, you always want somebody that has traction, that has a record, can support you as a founder, can help you with all difficult decisions. And I think that is Mr. Lemkin. He helps you with these difficult decisions.
All right, that's the sales and marketing pitch is done.
Yeah.
and Mathilde, you're like an expert in this topic. You even wrote a long-form blog post about the difference of when you're raising a seed round, US and Europe. Yeah. But then you've gone on to raise a Series A and so forth. Do you feel the same dynamics apply to Series A, and what have been your kind of key learnings when you talk to investors at both sides of the Atlantic?
Yeah, so for me, I think the reason we raised the series seed in the US is mainly because we couldn't raise in Europe, which I think was not true for a Series A. I think we could have raised, but I just enjoy my experience working with American VCs. As a European founder, I have a lot of, European roots, and so I think I needed a bit more American touch in this company, and that's why we chose Social Capital for our Series A.
A lot of people in Europe say that, oh, you can't raise money from US VCs if you don't completely relocate your business to the US. So let's try to debunk that myth a little bit. So how did you guys go about it? What functions did you move before you raised your round? Maybe Jens, you can.
I only moved myself. So I left my team in Sweden. I left them with one of my strong co-founders, and I decided that I will drop myself in the US only with my family, 3 kids, you know, it is super easy to take care of everything. But ultimately, that was the best decision ever, because basically I was forced to build a new team, and that excites me. And on top of that, it's hard. It's freaking hard, and it's every day I woke up like, I need to find these great people I need to hire. And ultimately I did it. We have 20 people today, and I believe that it depends on what you're looking for. Some founders bring their full team with them and may lose a few ones on the way, but ultimately it depends on what you're looking for. I was looking for really coming to US and really showing and demonstrating that I'm capable of recruiting. And that was like my ultimate goal from the beginning, and leaving the Swedish team still working on the European market.
Nicolas, how did you go about it?
Actually, when we raised our Series A, we didn't have really anyone in the US yet. So we are already headquartered here. We already had like most of our customers here. But it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of hustling. And I was committed to moving. So it was not a question of am I going to move or not, but the team would stay in Paris anyway. All the tech teams stayed in Paris. And it was never been a problem, actually, never been a question from investors.
Mm-hmm. And you think about the US, there's this again, this meme in Europe that, oh, if you are recruiting in the US, all the resumes are super inflated, and you need this culture of like everything is pitched really hard, and you have to be like almost overselling and you know, forget all the modesty. But does this also apply to when you were pitching US investors, or did you tell the story in the same way as you would have told it in Europe? Mathilde, how do you do that?
Yeah, so I think it's true. I think as European founders, you're really bad at pitching and overselling your company. So I have this funny story where when I applied to YC, one of the questions was, how big could this ID be? And I had to rehearse at least 30 times, it could be $1 billion company, to feel like it was natural. And then then I went to YC and I asked someone that was American, how big do you think this company could be? And he was like, obviously $1 billion company. And it was so natural. So I think we have a slight disadvantage on that. However, I think that so for hiring, pitching customers, I do think that we need to improve on that, and I worked on that. But for fundraising, I think it's one of the only times where if you have good numbers, it doesn't really matter to like oversell anything. I think you need to be patient and have good traction, and for us at least it worked out for seed and Series A.
What about the rest of you? Did you notice that change the pitch somehow?
Well, I'm a salesperson from the beginning, so I always try to sell, and that means that you always try to do your best pitch. And I believe that coming to US, you have to be clear about your goals and your visions, and you should be bold about it. You should not be afraid of telling the VCs that this is my vision, this is what I want to achieve. And even if you are yourself only one person sitting in a garage, you can still be bold and tell them that vision. It doesn't matter that you're not there today. You're coming in that direction in the future. And I think that matters when you come to US, that you have to be clear on that. But overselling, I would say that we Europeans are better than, we are pushing ourselves down a little bit. Sometimes I think we should just put ourselves up a little bit. That's what I have learned.
Yeah, and I think coming here in the US is a good way to push you up, because I think when you're in Europe and you're just watching on, I don't know, social media or watching SaaStr, etc., it seems like American founders are far better than you are, and you have this shitty company that no one wants to use. But truth is, the first time I came 3 years ago, and I was showing the product, and everyone was telling me, whoa, this is amazing. And then I was looking at the products of our competitors that had such great websites and marketing assets. Then that's when I think I built my confidence, because then you can see, like for real, how potential customers react to your product versus other products.
I think that's exactly the right point. Ambition is more important, actually, than overselling. I don't think I ever oversold like the company, the metrics or anything. However, our ambitions definitely changed a lot when we joined the YC and when we came in the US. Being at the contact of local founders kind of showed us the way to free our mind. I mean, in Europe, you think small. Here, you think big. And it helped us to think big, and then it was not overselling anymore. It's just like selling the vision.
So it's more about like painting the really big vision and kind of being bold enough to think big.
You still need to believe in your own vision.
Yeah.
And for some reason, US companies, at least startups in the Valley, has more respect from bigger enterprises. I don't say it's easy to sell to enterprises when you're small, but it's easier to be in the Bay Area because you have a lot of respect just because you're innovating stuff, you're disrupting stuff, they believe in you. So it's easier to get people to visit you here, actually, specifically from the enterprise sector.
And when you were looking for investors, what were you really looking for in terms of, were you looking for somebody who has like a vertical experience in what you were doing, or were you just looking for overall kind of good quality of investor, or access to customers? Was there a specific angle when you were kind of choosing who's going to be lucky one to fund your company?
I mean, for me, really, it came down to who I enjoy having dinner with. So, I mean, for our Series A, we had term sheets from like amazing investors. But the reason I chose Mamoun from Social Capital was just because I've had known him for 2 years. I trusted him, and I think the main thing about the way I think about it is I think building a company is super hard, even if you're doing well. And so if you're not feeling good when you're going to your board meeting, I think it's just like adding a lot of pressure. Whereas I trust Mamoun, so whenever I go to a board meeting, I know that I'll do my best, he will help me, and I'm not scared at all. So that's how I choose.
So Mathilde is telling us a great story here that I have to repeat. So basically, I think the same way that it's all about that trust and engagement from the investor. It's like a little bit like dating. You're meeting, and then you may get excited yourself about this investor, and the investor gets excited about you. And then it's the time to try to move to a term sheet, of course. But independently, not spend too much time in the due diligence phase. But I think that engagement, that investor believes in you truly, and also in some way wants to support you when it's really difficult. It's hard. It could be stressful. It could be hard to go to a board meeting without having a full deck or a bad deck or whatever, a bad day. And I think that's when it matters to have great investors that really believes in you, wants to support you when it goes like that and it goes like that. Because even if you're a great company, sometimes it will go like that. It's just fundamental in all companies.
And talking about the process, which you mentioned, the dating phase, I'm not going to get much into that analogy, but how long did it take you guys to raise your Series A from the kind of first serious conversations with investors?
In our case, it was a bit special because we got pushed to raise with a lot of external interest. So we were like, oh, that's the right time. And between the time we thought it was the right time to sign a term sheet, maybe 6 weeks. So it worked really well. But we had built a lot of relationships with the key investors we wanted to speak to before that. And that helped a lot. They didn't have to discover the company. They already knew a lot. I mean, they had never seen a pitch deck yet. It was really conversations. But that helped to create that engagement, that understanding, that trust that helped them to go faster.
Yeah, and for us, for our Series A, it took literally 6 days, so it's pretty unusual, but it's, what happened is I had built a relationship with a few SaaS investors. Byron Dieter, who is speaking at the moment, it was one of them. He gave us a term sheet, whereas we were not raising. It was expiring 6 days after, and he was a great investor, so I just called a few investors that I knew and told them I will make a decision by the end of the week. I think it can seem easy and too easy. Truth is, I had worked a lot with them before, always telling them about our progress and explaining what our vision was. So it was 6 days, but a lot of time was invested before.
There's no general answer. It could take 1 day to raise money. It could take 4 weeks. It could take 3 months. And you should not feel a pressure if it takes 3 months. It depends on that kind of relationship you have been building with the investor. If the investor is not ready to commit, it will likely take longer time to build that commitment and consensus in the partner team if there's multiple partners involved. And I think in our Series A, our seed round also, most of the things were closed within, I would say, 4 weeks. Seed round went really fast. Series A took a little bit longer because we have multiple options and wanted to review them. Ultimately, I think it doesn't really matter. If it's 3 months or 4 weeks or whatever, you're still a good founder if you manage to do it in under a year, I would say.
So it all sounds really, really easy, 6 days, Series A's or whatever. But let's talk about the other side. What were you feel the biggest mistakes you guys did when you were doing your fundraising at whatever stage you wanna talk about?
Raising before YC, if I can simplify. No, but in the end it turned out okay. But yeah, if I had one mistake, maybe that was our very first seed round that we did in Europe before joining YC. In inside, of course, that was a mistake. It would have been better to come here first. But yeah, you need to learn.
I think for me personally, since I'm a guy that believes strongly in customer relationships, I'm always giving my customer relationships to the investors that are willing to invest into us. And the mistake I've been doing, maybe more than once, is that I'm giving them too early. And that's bad and good. The bad thing is that these customers are getting a few calls. And you know, the pressure that we are putting on the customers doesn't equate to really the interest of the investor. So I would say that in the future I would be more restrictive about giving out my references before I really know that this investor really wants to invest and wants to work with me and my team.
I think the biggest mistake that I did is not being aggressive enough. So, I mean, for a Series A, now that I look back, I knew that we could have had better terms. But I think it's like this European thing where, I don't know, I was probably not confident enough when I raised money. But yeah, so I thought, okay, if I can do it in 6 days, I'll do it in 6 days, and I will not look at what other options are. I think it was like a mistake.
So to end, we're going to do a quick fire round that I'm adapted from my colleague Harry Stebbings' 20-minute VC podcast. But it's going to be a bit faster. I'm going to give you 2 options, and you pick the one that kind of feels right and comes to mind quickly. So, Nicolas, let's start with you. Growth or retention?
Retention.
Jens, outbound or inbound?
You know that I have my sales team listening here? It's inbound. I love you guys, but inbound is very important.
Okay, Mathilde, on pricing, modular or all-inclusive?
All-inclusive.
Okay, let's do another round. Nicolas, Paris or San Francisco?
I got my team too. San Francisco.
Jens, Mr. Robot or Westworld?
It's Westworld. All in.
Mathilde, Slack or email?
Email, of course.
And then one for I'm going to ask the same one from all of you. So, Mathilde, hard work or lucky break?
Lucky break. I'm French.
Jens.
I don't know. I have no good answer on that question.
Okay, the next one.
Can I say both?
Okay.
I mean, you need both.
This wasn't a very impressive last round. So just for the ending, one key tip for someone, European founder or who's raising their Series A or thinking of raising it, what's kind of like the one piece of advice you would give them, Nicolas?
Nurture your investors. Like the investors you think are going to be the good one for your Series A. I mean, when I say nurture, don't spend too much time, but like a call here and there, it's always useful to keep them up to date. And
would you use like marketing automation software for that?
No, I don't, but I should. But it's really getting them excited about the next round and making sure they are like excited all along and not discovering you are raising 2 weeks before.
Okay. I would say the deck. And you know what? Mathilde has shared her deck. So now it's super simple for everybody to raise $10 million. I haven't shared mine yet. Have you shared yours? But independently, I think working through the deck in iterations, presenting it to potential investors, receiving the feedback, and going back and redo your homework. You know, it's super crucial. That deck has to be perfect. Otherwise, you're lost. That's my key advice.
I think if it's for European founders specifically, I would say 2 things. One is you should come here. I know that some people will watch that talk, and I think the best thing that happened to Front was when I decided for the first time 3 years ago to come here and actually pitch to American VCs. And I had never been outside Europe before, so it was like a big deal for me to come here. But I think that's one thing that I did really well. And the second thing, I forgot about it. So.
Well, you only did one, so it's good.
Okay, cool.
So that's it for our panel. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. And I'm sure you can grab these guys afterwards for any more tips on fundraising. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.